can draw. I can draw. I can paint in watercolor. Hey guys, this is Caleb King of thecalebking.com. You're here at C2E2, and I just want you to say, hey, subscribe to Raze Chaos.
And welcome back, everybody. My name is Raze Chaos. You've made it back to my channel, and oh god, Raze told you it was going to start getting weird, and this is where it starts getting weird. Yeah, lots of changes coming to the channel, lots of changes coming to the look, the background, everything is about to get different. Raze is going through something, and he decided that the best way to do so is by showing one of the strangest characters that has popped out of the DC universe. Mr. Nobody originally started as a character called Eric Morden. And Eric Morden was way back in like 1965. He was a rival of the Chief in the Doom Patrol. And he was a rival scientist. He basically wanted a machine that the Chief had created.
Right, this is who you turn into?
So yeah, Eric Morden joined, he doesn't really join the group, but he comes into contact with the Brotherhood of Evil, and which is the Doom Patrol's essential archenemy, especially in the 1960s, in the original run of the Doom Patrol, which is often compared to the X-Men. And that was one of the big similarities that Marvel had pointed out, because here you have this wheelchair-bound leader of a supergroup, you know, it's like, hello, this is the X-Men, the strange and unusual. Hey, this is the X-Men. These are mutants. You guys are copying us. And even though all the way down to the villains they fight, the Doom Patrol fought the Brotherhood of Evil. The X-Men fought the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Yeah, there are a lot of claims that this just happened by happenstance. Like, yeah, this wasn't actually intentional. And they point out the fact that the creative process, you know, it goes way back before an actual publish date. And that even though the Doom Patrol came out after the X-Men, it was like, they like to say that the creative process took a lot longer, so they couldn't have known that Marvel was doing everything that they were doing with the X-Men before the X-Men were published, and that they wouldn't have had enough time to have put all this together and have a finished product with like the Doom Patrol ready when they did. But yeah, the arguments are wide and many. There are plenty of similarities between the X-Men and the Doom Patrol, but the Doom Patrol tends to lean into the weird more than I mean, the X-Men have the explanation. You've got mutants, and that is the catch-all for them. With the Doom Patrol, you had to have, this is a robot with a human brain. That's not a mutant. Nobody was born that way. You've got this alien energy inside of Negative Man, and later Negative Woman, and then later in Rebus. There's like plenty of, it just feels like they have to stretch really far to make the characters make more sense. And it feels like they really do stretch on these things. But yeah, Eric Morden He wanted that robot that Chief had, teamed with the Brotherhood of Evil to get a hold of that. Had a falling out with a couple of members of the Brotherhood of Evil, and essentially by the end of that story, Eric Morton is hated by both the Chief and the Doom Patrol and the Brotherhood of Evil, and basically has to go hide because he went into business for himself, and it didn't work out. So that was kind of the last that anybody saw of Eric Morton in the comics until 1989. From 65 to 89, nobody even ever thought of this obscure character from the Doom Patrol. And then we're going to go ahead and put this guy away, and we are going to talk about Mr. Nobody.
Our story begins, as such stories do, with a visit to a Nazi. I'm sorry, cobbler.
Okay, like they said, Eric Morton essentially goes to, he's basically been hiding out, and he basically starts communicating with a Nazi, which puts him in what the Nazi scientist refers to as the White Room. And essentially, that's where the what the heck starts. So what did the White Room do to Eric Morton? It's really hard saying. The one thing that they can say for sure is it robbed him of his sanity. He is described as a shadow with a heart-shaped hole. As far as his physicality, a heart-shaped hole where his heart should be. He absolutely does not have an explanation because he is irredeemably insane. It's hard to say what his actual powers are, simply because the only thing that we know for sure is that he can drain the sanity out of other people. He can essentially pull people out.
You're all at my mercy.
Basically, if you ask Mr. Nobody what happened to him in the White Room, he will lay it down for you like this. He will say that he was able to see the entire universe, and what he saw was a drooling idiot with no fashion sense. The fact that he is so far out there, and the fact that when you're watching this stuff, he is essentially, when you see him, his powers are working. You will see him in a distorted manner. That's why when it came to the difference in the physical appearance of him versus the look he had in the Doom Patrol TV series versus the version of him that you got to see in the actual comic, much different. And it's primarily because he is draining your sanity as you are looking at him. He probably doesn't even know exactly what he looks like to you. How much of his, like I said, the only power that they 100% say that he has is the ability to drain the sanity from other people. So how much of what people see him do is really happening versus, what their own insanity is putting them through is, it's really complicated. It's really kind of crazy. He's basically pitting your own brain against you, and your own perceptions against you. So it's really hard to say what powers, if any, he actually has. The perceived power, of course, is messing with you. Like, even watching the show, even watching the Doom Patrol TV series, he refers to himself as the narrator. So, and he is narrating the story in places. And it's like, okay, so how powerful is he? It's just kind of like, how much control does he have of everything? Because he is irredeemably insane. You can't even trust what he says.
A, I am sinister and dark. B, I'm powerful enough to control this entire streaming service if I wanted to.
The one thing that they did determine in the in the comics that is actually a way of stopping him or shutting him down is to actually cover his head. If you put like a sack over his head and everything, then essentially it cancels out all the powers that he has. You know, he's not sucking the sanity out of you anymore. You're able to see everything. One of the weird things, and they went back and forth on this, but a lot of this is Grant Morrison, so it's gonna get weird. It's gonna get weird for no reason. It was a huge thing, and probably why they didn't incorporate this into the TV series was that when you cover Eric Morton's head, or Mr. Nobody's head, essentially that does cancel out his powers. And in the comics, they've actually shown it to where once his head was covered, he essentially reverted back to his normal human form, or the appearance of his normal human form, which was in fact naked. So it's just like, yeah, well, wait, all this madness that's been going on here is just done by this one naked man. Yeah, it just gets weird. It gets needlessly weird because that's what Grant Morrison does. And I would say that this is probably his magnum opus as far as weirdest characters of all time. It is interesting to look at, but like I said, not only does Grant Morrison tend to make things needlessly weird, he also tends to make things needlessly more complicated. So a lot of times you feel like you need to jump through three or four more hoops, but it doesn't expand on anything. It doesn't explain anything more, and you basically are still left confused, like, why the heck did I even need to know that? Because it has no bearing on anything. And that is a metaphor for the way Grant Morrison writes anything. I will stop because this video is most likely going to be the one that attracts the most Grant Morrison fans. And I don't want to kind of bash him. Just let it be known I'm not a big Grant Morrison fan. But at any rate, we are going to go ahead and open this guy up, and we are going to have a look at him.
Pity me any longer, fight or don't. But I am going to.
And for any Grant Morrison fans that are watching this, kind of wondering, like, well, if you're not a big Grant Morrison fan, why do you have Mr. Nobody on here? It's primarily because Raze collects all DC. If he can collect a DC character, he's going to, even if it's strange. And this one most definitely is. This is a glow-in-the-dark figure. Not really sure how the glow works, but if Raze can get the glow to work, he will show an image of it in the video. As a matter of fact, yeah, if you're seeing this video, you probably already know whether it glows or not because Raze probably already showed it. But otherwise, this is probably one of the weirdest Funko Pops that has ever really been shown. I think it's odd because I mean, they add the fact that it's clear plastic on his head. Like, you can see right through and how the neck joint goes into the head. And it even extends to looking through the character at times. Because essentially he's Mr. Nobody. He is nobody. He is nothing. Yeah. I didn't understand when I saw the TV series how exactly they were going to do that. Because his physical appearance in the comic books didn't really lend to being adapted very well into live action. But they've definitely done a very, very, very interesting job as far, it's hard for me to say if it was good or not because, like I said, Raze isn't a huge fan of the Doom Patrol from that era. But I mean, they definitely did make it weird, and that's basically what people who like the Doom Patrol were going for, and they really pushed the weird as far as they could. Very interesting looking pop. I mean, it's cool looking, but I mean, it really feels like this would be one of them that would be a very niche figure as far as collectors go, because it is very different.
Who wants to get ripped apart first?
The character itself is very niche in its own way, and I could see this having very limited appeal to a mass audience.
Oh, bullshit.
Raze being his own kind of creature where, yes, he must have DC. He must have all the DC characters he can possibly get because he's crazy like that. But outside of Doom Patrol fans, I mean, I could see this be something that, like, even Doom Patrol fans that don't appreciate the look of the TV show, I could see them not wanting to go for this. But at the same time, like, it's kind of curious. I would be interested in hearing what you have to say. The one thing I will say, in its favor, is that they absolutely casted the perfect person for Mr. Nobody, and that is Alan Tudyk. And as much adoration that Alan Tudyk gets, I don't think he gets enough. I think he is a brilliant actor, and he does. You push him into the weird, and he absolutely excels at it. He makes it better than anybody else could. So even though Raze wasn't a big fan of the source material, Mr. Nobody kind of made it a joy to watch, just because it's always a joy to watch Alan Tudyk. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it to you guys at this point. Like, what do you think of Mr. Nobody? I mean, I know the explanation didn't really explain a lot, but he's kind of unexplainable. Be curious to know if you are a fan of the Doom Patrol from that era and what you thought of the portrayal in the TV series. Very big kind of question that goes there. Would be interested in hearing about it. Again, and compare and contrast, like, what did you think of Mr. Nobody in the Doom Patrol TV series? I've pretty much stammered my way through this video because this is probably one of the hardest Razes ever had to do. Probably would have been impossible if it weren't for the fact that his origin was actually in 1965, and that was something for Raze to start with, and be able to float from that point on. Because, again, absolutely nonsensical character, and that's the whole purpose behind the nonsensical character. But again, whatever you think, whatever you want. Raze had to add into the collection regardless. So I'd be interested in hearing your opinion. Let me know down below. But at any rate, Raze hopes you have. Raze told you it was going to get weird, and this is kind of the weirdest character one of the weirdest characters, if not the weirdest character that you're going to find from the DC universe. So, Ray's going to go ahead and let you go now, and hope you have a great day, and never forget that life is full of odd moments. You never know when you're going to be defined.
Yeah.